They're probably watching me. Well, let them. Let them see what kind of a person I am. I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know. And they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Hello, and welcome to What Makes It Scary, a seasonal podcast unleashing the fear behind your favorite and not-so-favorite horror movies. I am your host, Jody Henderson of Clever Girl Effects Studios, and with me, I have Alex Vincent of Mr. Red Productions.
Yes, I'm here. I don't know what has come over us to compel us to speak in this way.
My best impression of Alfred Hitchcock.
Is that honestly what that was supposed to be, Jody?
I was trying so hard.
I literally
thought all day about it, and I just couldn't do it.
Wow, I literally couldn't begin. I knew that's what we were doing today, was talking about Hitchcock. I would never have known that's whose voice you were trying to do. Wow.
His voice just cracks me up.
It is. It's a very strange voice. That's what we're talking about today is Hitchcock. Yeah. Alfred, specifically.
Yes.
Not any of the lesser Hitchcocks that no one knows about. I don't mean to imply that they're lesser, just we don't know them.
They are. They're definitely lesser. Today we are talking about the king of horror.
Well.
The father, the starter.
The Master of Suspense is what he's referred to as. Because if you watch his movies, they're very suspenseful. Do you know, I'm going to tip my hand a little bit here. Do you know what another word for suspenseful is? I'm going to assume that's a no.
No.
Boring. I don't... Oh. I'm not...
Wow.
I know. Well, his movies are very good, I'll say that, and I do enjoy them a lot, but there are a lot of very long, very slow sequences, intentionally so, but I've spoken on this show and other shows before about how suspense just doesn't work on me, because I don't care. I'm like, there's got to be some jump scare or some event, and we'll get over it.
Right. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
We, in anticipation, did our homework. We watched a ton of Hitchcock movies. We also watched a documentary called 78/52.
It's a slash, and it's metaphorical as well as literal.
Yeah. And it's
literally
Hitchcock's shower scene from Psycho. That's what it's about. And
the whole documentary is literally about that one scene from Psycho because it's so iconic. Am I close enough to the microphone? I don't think I am. Sorry.
Thanks.
All right.
So, and in there, they have this excerpt from Hitchcock himself. It's like, building suspense is so important. You could have this 10-minute long, dinner scene where no one's really talking about anything. And then at the end of it, a bomb goes off. And that was, exciting and, oh my gosh, shocking and whatever. But you go back and you slide in there that there's a bomb under the table. Mm-hmm. And at the end of 5 minutes, it's going to explode. All of a sudden, the same dialogue is so much more amplified with suspense that you're having.
And that's the kind of suspense that I do like. You can have suspense, like in the movie Scream. That's a very suspenseful movie.
We talked about him like 2 weeks ago.
I know.
Anyway.
But when things are happening and something bad is about to happen, that's really good.
Well, do you think something's bad's going to happen in these movies?
No. Did you not hear the first half of the sentence I just said?
I guess not.
When other things are happening. Like if, for example, spoilers, The Birds, where Tippi Hedren is just like wandering through a house for what feels like 45 minutes.
Yeah, that is a long scene.
And something's about to happen and you're like, oh, what's going to happen next? But you're also like, when is it going to happen? Because I got a life to live here. If you have a scene of a bunch of characters sitting around having a conversation, like we are right now, oh no, and there's a bomb about to go off,
right now.
Oh no! Then I'm like, okay, well, I'm interested because I'm suspenseful, but I'm also watching a movie and not just somebody wander halls.
You're right.
I don't know.
You're absolutely right. Name some Alfred Hitchcock movies.
Okay.
I honestly think people of our generation don't know a lot of them.
Sure.
I've, kind of thrown it out there like, hey, what's your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies? And nobody can get past like Psycho, which completely understandable. No doubt of any kind, that Psycho is Alfred Hitchcock's best movie.
Okay.
There's some motherfuckers out there who think Vertigo is the best movie, and I highly disagree. But
I want to clue the audience into what our life is like sometimes. You and I will experience the world, for example, watching a YouTube video that's a top 10 list, and you get so angry at the listing
it's so
of them.
fucking stupid.
And you'll hang everything on this one top 10 video, which we won't be linking to, by the way. But
right.
It did not put Psycho as number one, and Jody was
It's
livid.
bullshit. It's like, what the fuck? Are you just trying to be different?
Maybe. Some people don't. You know what's boring is when somebody's like, you know what? What's the best horror movie? And someone's like, Psycho. And you're like, yeah, everyone says Psycho.
Oh, but it is. It fucking is.
Well, that's debatable.
It is.
It's by far and away the most influential horror movie of all time.
It's amazing.
It's pretty great. It's a great movie. I will say that. As much as I'm not a fan of like slow suspense, and there are some in Psycho, I love that movie so much.
I feel like there's no real slow suspense
maybe not.
in Psycho.
All right, well.
But his other movies, such as
The Birds
is
one.
Is a very slow cooker.
It doesn't start off that way, though. Like, at first, there's like not a lot horror happening. It's mostly character stuff.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like, I'm into it. And then, like, that's the first, like, half of the movie. Then the birds start attacking, and it's just people locked in houses, waiting.
Right.
And it's frustrating.
I say we talk about The Birds.
Let's talk about
since
The
we're
Birds.
here right now.
We're going backwards in order. This is the latest movie
Right.
that we're planning on talking about.
The Birds came out in 1963. This came out after Psycho.
3 years after Psycho.
Yeah. And so Hitchcock started his career in the 20s, made a movie every single year of his career.
Yeah.
Until Psycho.
Sometimes more than one.
Yeah, sometimes more than one. Made Psycho, took 3 years, and then came out with The Birds. I totally understand it. How the fuck can you can you follow up Psycho?
And The Birds looks like a lot of time went into it. Like, it was a painstaking movie.
The fucking literal birds alone
Yeah.
would be horrible to work with.
Oh, geez, yeah.
This is a typical, I want to call it a typical Alfred Hitchcock movie because we have a blonde leading lady.
Was that typical of his?
Absolutely.
Oh, that makes sense.
Abso-fucking-lutely. We have Grace Kelly, Tippi Hedren, Janet Leigh. You know,
Although,
so many.
She was gray because everything in those movies were gray because it was black and white. I schooled you. Would you
Still
like to
blonde.
rescind? Okay. Well.
And it's really funny, this leading lady is like a fucking pathological liar.
She is, but I kind of like it.
I don't.
Okay. Why not?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I think we, in history, have seen a lot of con men characters, a lot of like con artists, like your music's man, you know, like
Summer 96 Trump.
Yeah. He's a pathological liar.
You're right.
But he's charming and he's fun, and we like want to see him succeed, even though he's kind of the bad guy of that story. And, I mean, history, especially fictional history, is full of characters like that we love, and we're like, yeah, they're lying, but they're doing it for either a noble reason or for love or something, which we now view as kind of, like, problematic and manipulative if you're, like, literally lying to people to be with someone.
So you just kind of like it that it's a twist on
I do. I like
character?
I do like that she's very capable, at least in the first half of the movie. She's very capable. She's very smart and resourceful, and she does what she needs to.
Yeah.
Which I can respect, even if,
I get
she's
it.
bad.
I get it. Finding out that this guy that knows you, finding out his name and that his sister wants 2 lovebirds.
Yeah.
And going there and getting them and dropping them off. I'm totally into that. I don't know. I just don't like the lying behind it.
Yeah,
I don't like liars. And female or male or they.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care.
I kind of, when it was just her and we're not really recapping this movie, so if you haven't seen it,
fucking go watch it.
It's a good one.
It's long. It's the longest one.
It is. It's like, it's just under 2 hours, or is it
just
over
over 2 hours?
Just over 2 hours. It's a long one, and it feels long too.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's well made. When it's just her and Mitch, kind of like, and you could argue that it's like flirt lying, like they both know they're not telling the truth, but she lies to everyone.
But she doesn't know that he knows that she's not.
At first, she doesn't know that he knows that
this
she's not
is
a
such
liar,
fun
but
game.
later she figures out that he
is a liar.
Anyway, yeah.
This is the only Alfred Hitchcock movie that does not have a score to it.
That's right. Yeah, there's no
Although
music.
I know they say that. I don't know if Rope has a score. I think it does.
Oh, it definitely has music because there's like
because the guy's playing the music.
But
the kids
there's
are
the kids
singing in The Birds.
It's something called, like, I never know if it's diegetic or non-diegetic, but there's something where music in the story happens naturally causing the music.
Right.
Versus just, a composer in a soundboard made something.
Right.
Not to diminish that. It sounds reductive, but
but yeah, there's no music. It definitely, like, it is this just very ethereal, like, weirdness to this movie because there is no score underneath it. It definitely stands out. Like you said, the long scene where she's walking up the staircase and it's just like, oh my fucking, make a noise, something. Like, it's just
it's almost
utter
like a silence. Yeah.
Which, I mean, movies today play off of that.
Yep. A Quiet Place?
Yeah, thank you. I was like, a deaf place.
A deaf place. Well,
you know,
there was a deaf character.
They play off of that. So, question.
Yeah.
I don't like birds.
Okay.
And I know birds, especially larger birds, are like prey.
Birds of prey.
Birds
Raptors,
of prey.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't honestly think that you could die by having a ton of birds on you. I know that's probably really ignorant of me to say.
I don't know if ignorant's the right word, but I think you could.
Like, how?
Well, birds are actually pretty brutal creatures.
Yeah.
Like, they have their feet are like talons, you know?
Yeah.
And they can like do some serious damage, and they have beaks and everything. It's mostly the talons, I think. Like, those things are made as killing machines.
Okay, but like, as long as you're covering your face and your jugular and like hunched over, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
So you probably can't hear me, but like, I feel like they could not kill you that way.
Enough, I think if there
unless they literally all were pecking at your spinal cord and like got into it.
And I guess you also like panic, so maybe you're not covering your head, because especially
it's instinctual for humans to cover like their most vital parts.
But have you seen any movie from before 1970? All the characters just saw something scary and they're like, ah, and they just didn't move and like screamed at it.
Yeah, but normal people don't act that way.
Yeah, well, this is a movie. You're saying in real life? I think
I honestly don't think like a herd of birds could kill you.
Well, I think if we were to look it up, which apparently neither of us did, but I think people do die from bird attacks. And like
fucking how? I don't understand.
Know. They have sharp talons. They scratch at you. You panic. You freak. You try to run. You get hit by traffic. I don't know.
Okay, that makes more sense that a car will kill you instead of a bird.
I don't have any answers for you. I think they are dangerous.
I don't know.
You're thinking of like pigeons in like New York City.
I'm
talking
think of
about
like seagulls.
Yeah, seagulls are pretty
like
vicious
I know
creatures.
they say like a parrot can like chop off your fucking finger just by clipping it.
Yeah.
With their beak, and that's really scary.
Well, we'll have to return that pet parrot we got.
Yeah, I fucking hate birds. Don't ever buy me a parrot. I honestly don't think that. Audience, I'll do some research to see if you can actually die by birds. But anyway, the deaths in this movie are very weird.
Yeah.
The first one we get, his like eyes are gouged out, and I'm like, did he die by having his eyes gouged out? Because you wouldn't die from that.
Presumably, I got the impression that he was like in bed asleep, and then the attack started, and his eyes got gouged out, and then he was like bleeding to death, and he got up and like slumped over and died through blood loss.
Maybe. But how does Annie, the school teacher, die?
It's never. We just see
she doesn't
her
even.
body.
She doesn't have like a fucking speck of blood on her, and her eyes are there because you see them.
Do you? I thought she was like upside down.
She is. She's laying on her back, and you see whatever his name is, like put his hand. Yeah, his. Oh, I should know that. His hand in front of her like eyes, so like the girls don't see it, but you see it.
Okay, well. I don't know. I guess just blood loss, getting pecked a bunch, because like you could. I don't know. I do not know.
You get bird flu like instant.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what it is. It's actually not the birds that's the problem.
Bird flu.
It's like the bubonic plague. It wasn't the rats. It was the disease that the...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Honestly, that's just like my biggest problem. And like, it's just literal ignorance of me just being like, I don't really think you could die by birds.
I don't know. So throughout this movie, it starts off with Tippi Hedren's character, whose name is...
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well... The main character, she goes to this small town to deliver...
Daniels is her last name.
Okay.
Mrs. Daniels.
Great. She goes to this small town to deliver these two lovebirds in a cage to this man she met and like kind of developed a crush on. And the whole movie takes place in this town. But she gives these two lovebirds to his younger sister because she wants them for her birthday. And then throughout the whole movie, those birds are there, not seemingly unaffected by whatever the rest of the birds are doing because they're not panicking, they're not freaking out.
And that's like such a missed opportunity.
Well, I think it's, I don't know if it's supposed to be symbolic. I think there might have been a scene that explained what was going on with the birds, and maybe it's explained by they didn't eat whatever those birds ate or whatever, but I don't know. But I just think it's really funny that there's this bird attack. Everyone's scared of these birds, and people keep walking into the kitchen and seeing these cage, and you keep seeing these two birds that are like,
they're so cute.
we're innocent. We didn't do anything. Please let us out.
Fuck you, birds.
And yeah, everyone's so suspicious of these.
And then, Kathy's like, can I bring the birds with us? At the end, it's like, fuck no, leave those birds to die.
She does, though, right?
Yeah, she takes them.
She takes them. That's good, because they're nice birds. I don't think they're evil birds.
I think all birds have something to do.
They're suspicious looking.
They are.
They got beady eyes.
They seriously, yeah, that's what it is. I don't like their feet.
Yeah.
Their feet really.
Because they have talons at the end that could kill you.
Yeah.
I would say I didn't find this movie particularly scary. As a horror movie, I think it didn't really deliver in the fear department, just for me.
I think it's more of the idea of an epidemic that you are unable to control.
That is pretty frightening, yeah.
Which is like The Happening.
Yep.
Kind of, it's that same thing. You don't know what's happening. You don't know if it'll change. You don't know. Like, you just have no control. You're no longer at the top of the food chain.
Sure.
Like, it's that type of fear, not necessarily fear of birds.
Yeah. I will say the scariest scene that I thought was really cool was when, towards the end of the movie, when they're like, all right, because the birds attack in like waves. They attack and then they kind of retreat for a while. Mm-hmm. During one of their retreat areas, they're like, all right, we need to go out, get the car, and leave this town. Why they didn't do this sooner, I don't know. But they're like, all right, so now the birds aren't attacking, let's do this. So Mitch, the main character, I guess, it should have been, I maintain that it should have been the woman Tippy. I just love that her name, by the way, is Tippy.
It is a cute name.
She should have been the one to do this, but because it's the 60s and because men are the men, she had just been attacked by the birds. Right, he could have been attacked by the birds and been out for the count.
But then who would they call?
I don't
Ghostbusters?
know. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, he walks out the front door and just every single surface is covered with birds.
Yeah.
And it's like dusk, so like it's really it's a color movie. The movie's in color, but it feels like it's in black and white because of how overcast and like dark it looks. It's a really, really cool scene.
And these are like all real birds.
Yeah, at this point they're real.
They tied fucking birds to kids.
Oh, yeah.
When they're like running down the hill away from the
and like
school.
put like bird seed in their
so
collars.
They peck them.
That seems dangerous.
The goddamn 60s.
Did we look at any of these kids to see if they like developed the bird flu or anything like that?
Did I? No.
Anyone? Has anyone ever checked up on those kids? Where are those kids?
Dead, probably.
Well, yeah. Actually, no. I don't think they would.
Her name was Melanie Daniels.
Melanie Daniels, thank you. That rings a bell.
I knew it was Daniels. Because I watched this movie in my freshman year English class.
Did you really?
And my teacher's name was Mrs. Daniels.
Oh.
Shout out, love you.
Okay,
Mrs.
if you're
Daniels.
listening, and we know you are.
She's like one of my best friends that I have from school.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Okay. Fun fact about this movie, I don't know if you have this written down, but the little girl who plays this younger sister, Kathy, she's played by Veronica Cartwright, who later goes on to be the other female character in the movie Alien. Not Sigourney Weaver, but like the other one who's like crying all the time.
Yeah.
So
who
fun.
Falls on her back in the huge scene of the chest burster.
Yeah.
Because they didn't tell anybody what the scene was going to be like. Right. We're going to give a little trivia about Alien since we're here. Yeah, they didn't really tell any of the cast members kind of what the scene was going to be like. They didn't.
I have some corrections, but I'll wait till you're done. Are you mad?
Yes.
Well, they knew that it was going to be a chest bursting thing.
Yeah, they didn't know how it was going to happen.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they didn't really tell, like, how much blood there was going to be or anything like that, or what the animal inside looked like. Uh-huh. So they just filmed it, and this girl, Kathy's...
Veronica.
Yeah, screams and the thing shoots at her, gets blood all over her. She slips and falls back, and they put it in the movie. Like, they kept it. They were just like, oh, it's just such a true reaction. Well, you have to if
you have something like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
They only shot that scene once
because
there was so much blood, and the whole set is white because it was supposed to be sterile, pristine.
They couldn't
everything
clean it
like
down.
that, and they're like, "There's no way we can clean this." Yeah,
that's really cool. Let me ask you this: Did Alfred Hitchcock direct Alien?
No.
All right, then shut up about it.
But speaking of white, sterile places,
I would love that movie. Alfred Hitchcock's Alien.
Oh, God.
That'd be great. Anyway, yeah, speaking of white, sterile places, are we moving back in time?
Let's go back to Psycho.
Psycho! This is what we're all here for, people.
Because it's the best.
It is the best.
So, as I said before, we watched this documentary, 78/52.
Yeah.
78 being the pieces or... pieces of film or the setups for each one of these...
Each shot, maybe?
Yeah, each shot and the 52 cuts within those shots.
So the only way I can think this math makes sense is if they have 78 different segments shot, like set up and shot and everything, and just didn't use a bunch of them, because there's no way you'd be able to use them all with only 50
well, how many? Yeah.
Whatever shots. I mean, edits.
Yeah.
I have questions, but it's fine.
Whatever. There's a reason they fucking named it
this
that.
This is not the time and place.
Great documentary, except for 2 people.
Yeah, this is another thing. This is another segment where you were getting so mad at like just a couple people.
Well, they have all of these horror movie directors and
Eli Roth
stars.
is there. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right. Daughter of Janet Leigh, who was our leading lady in Psycho. They have all these people, and I totally understand why they have this one character, but I'm going to go to this other one first. Why the fuck is Elijah Wood in this documentary?
Because why is anyone in this documentary? Who cares? What does it matter?
It's a joke.
Okay. You're not saying you're joking. You're saying him being in it.
Him being in it is a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not making a joke about that. The other person that I just really couldn't stand his attitude towards this movie was Osgood Perkins. Anthony Perkins' son. Anthony Perkins being Norman Bates from Psycho.
Yes.
Who I love.
Yeah.
And let me make that perfectly clear. I love Anthony Perkins.
Now that you've brought up Anthony Perkins, I was waiting for this moment.
We said it!
We said it! Oh, we're going to get slimed! What is this? Nickelodeon? Do you know anything about Anthony Perkins' wife?
Oh, no. Is her name Jody?
No. It's actually Barry, which is weird.
Oh, God.
Can I bring the mood down for a minute? Can we get depressing? Do you know how his wife died?
I'm really scared to find out in the shower.
No.
No, God.
But
You
could
made this
imagine?
look in your eye like it was.
No, it's not as fun as all that. She died in the September 11th terrorist attacks.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know a lot of
I was going to say, was she in the building?
I don't know any of the details. It just said, as a passenger on American Airlines Flight 11.
Oh.
So she was on the plane. So that's really dark. But it is a...
Wait a fucking...
Well, what did you want me to... I learned that. You want me to keep that to myself?
That she slipped in the shower.
Okay, yeah. Well, so a woman still died, so it's still sad.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Anthony.
Well, he was dead by then. Anyway.
Oh, well, then I don't really feel so bad.
Okay, great. Now we have that on record.
I don't know her, though.
Right. It's just a fun fact with fun in air quotes and italics.
Right.
And that really reveals a lot about me. So let's just move on. Anyway, Psycho.
Groundbreaking movie.
Oh, it's literally the reason we're here today doing this podcast.
Came out in 1960.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock had made movies in Technicolor before this, like a good handful of them.
Well, pretty much every movie was Technicolor at this point. Like, it was...
Right,
it was
in this era.
Rare to make a movie. It's kind of like if you released a movie in black and white today, people would be like, that's an interesting choice.
Right. I think the leading part of why Alfred Hitchcock chose this to be black and white is because the blood would be too fake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the way they did it, they would have just used something else. I think it was a censorship thing.
Well, that too, but he didn't like how it would have looked.
Okay,
like
he couldn't get it to look right.
Right, they didn't have the stuff that we do nowadays.
Sure.
So of course we all know the trope of like all the blood in Psycho is Hershey's syrup, which it actually is, guys. That's really cool.
True. Since we're talking about blood in horror movies, this is a perfect opportunity to bring up the movie The Shining. Famously, there's the...
Sure.
Well, I'm getting there.
Again, we talked about that last week.
Yeah,
anyway.
we're going to talk about it again.
Go ahead.
So the famous scene of the hallway flooding with blood and everything.
Right.
That's in the trailers, but the, MPAA or something, the censorship board was like, you can't put that in. That's like a lot of blood. That's a lot of gore and violence. We can't show that. So Stanley Kubrick was like, oh, that's not blood. That's rusty water. So he told the board.
That dirty bastard.
And it worked. He was able to get it out there, but of course we know it's blood. Anyway, Psycho.
Right. So this is a film that's in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. I mean,
right,
I don't even really know where to start with this.
So I want to say, well, you probably have something you want to talk about. Why don't you, what do your notes say? What do we got?
Hitchcock also made this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He had been making adventure movies, kind of just, one murder, whodunit type of things.
Thriller, crime movies,
Right.
not so much horror
was
movies.
a twist that came, and he was like, you do not know me as a director.
You don't know me. He did this as a flex
Yeah.
to be like, you people think you know Hitchcock. You don't know Hitchcock.
I mean,
He sounded like that too.
as they said, like, all of Hitchcock's work really, like, you know, had, what's the word I want to use?
I don't know. Ouvroir.
Yeah, of how bad government was in America and
Really?
that type of thing, and how it was failing, and all the, you know, all this stuff's going to change and it's going to be bad. So, like, this was his turning point to be like, look at the shit that's going on, like, in our own country.
It was very much a reaction to the societal changes that were going on at the time.
Right.
The 60s were like an explosion of, I don't want to say liberalism, but like the hippie movement was starting to get going at this time.
Right. And not that he was, like, against that, but it was more like the government placements of, like, censorship and, like, all this just random stuff that he was like, well, fuck you.
It came at the perfect time, this movie did.
This movie showcases, like, the randomness of life.
Yep.
We have our leading lady. The reason you came to see this movie was Janet Leigh.
Marion Crane. What a great name, Marion Crane.
I love the name Marion. It's on my list of names.
To name a baby.
A child, yes.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't name a teenager. You could.
Well, you eventually do.
No, you name a baby and then
You have to think of a name, and then you have to, this is what people don't do.
Okay, what do people not do?
They don't see how that name's going to carry them, like, through life.
That's why you give them a name like Elizabeth, where they can be Lizzie or Ellie or Eliza or Elizabeth.
I hate the name Elizabeth.
Well, that's fine.
So.
Sorry to all our Elizabethan listeners.
Yeah,
what about
because we have a ton of those. Yeah. So they come to see, they're like, Janet Leigh's here. And Alfred Hitchcock had this huge thing, like, when this movie came out, as soon as the movie starts, nobody else gets to come in. So if you fucking miss the time, you don't get to come in.
I think that this movie is very influential in so many ways. And I think a very overlooked way is kind of kickstarting showtimes for movies. Like, people couldn't come in the middle of the movie because he was worried that people would come in after the shower scene and wonder where Janet
Leigh's going to be. Because she dies in, like, the first third of the movie.
Yeah. So he was like, all right, once this movie starts, you can't come in. So people would plan, hey, we have to go, and the movie is going to be starting at this time. So we have to get there and be in our seats by this time. And that is something that we see today. It used to be that you would just kind of be like, oh, we can just walk into we're out. We just had lunch. Why don't we just walk over to the movie theater and see the last half of a movie? Or whatever.
Which is, like, in a way, so disrespectful to those movie makers.
Right, which is probably...
I mean, you're getting the same money, so you're getting the same monetary from those people, but they're not getting, like, your full art, which is so hoity-toity for us to say.
No, I mean, like...
So that's like turning on our podcast in the middle of it and being like, oh, sure.
Yeah. And I think, like, if we didn't have that, I think movies would still be made in a way that would suit walking in at any point. Like, characters are going to introduce themselves a lot, or the plot's not really going to move all that far because people are coming in halfway. But now movies are like, all right, start to finish, this is a story. It's a work of art.
But this was such a shock that they killed Janet Leigh.
Well, no, they didn't. Yeah, they killed Marion Crane. Janet Leigh was fine.
They offed her.
She's
like
dead.
She's not coming back. She's dead. Fucking floored audiences.
Well, did you see the post-credits scene where she sticks her hands onto the grave? Well, am I wrong?
You are wrong. Okay. That's not out there, people. Like,
are you worried that people are going to think that?
Yeah. You know what? You don't know what the age of our listeners. They might actually believe that.
I think most people know Psycho.
No. When did you first see Psycho?
When did I first? That's a good question. I went through this, like, phase where I was younger and I was, like, discovering horror movies. This was the only Hitchcock movie that I actually...
3 years ago? Like,
no. Like, when I was, like, 12 or 13.
Okay.
So, about then, probably. But I didn't...
When you were first getting into horror?
Yeah.
And you were like, well, let's start at Alfred Hitchcock.
No, I didn't start there. I was like, watch just random horror movies, and one of them was like, hey, this is one of the most influential, best, scariest movies of all time. Not particularly scary by today's standards, but you can definitely feel the influence. And I watched it, and I didn't remember a lot of it when we went to watch it. Because I only saw it, like, I think the one time when I was young. But I knew about it, and I read a lot about it. And then going to see it, seeing it with you recently, I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't remember a lot of this stuff, but it's interesting.
I first watched it my junior year of high school. We had drama club. And for like half of it, we would do drama club things like play games and, improv and all that other stuff. And the other half, we would like take a classic movie and watch it.
Oh, that's cool.
And we had to like get permission signed to watch Psycho.
Oh, because it's
rated, whatever it's rated.
So we watched this movie on Stars because it's available on Stars. And it's technically rated R there.
Right, which at the time, I'm sure it was.
Oh, you know what? I feel like an idiot. I was thinking of PG-13 that didn't exist at that time. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it's rated R. Fine.
So I watched it, and I had no idea. I knew there was a shower scene.
Yeah.
And that's all I knew.
So you didn't know that the main character died in the shower.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't know it was a black and white film. I didn't know that. I didn't know the fucking ending like blew my mind that could ever happen.
Oh yeah.
Like because the whole time I'm like, this goddamn mother's alive and and is killing these people.
Well, that's what the movie tells you, and kind of cheats to tell you that too.
It does. It really does.
The voice of the old woman.
Yeah.
There's no way Norman Bates is doing that.
And also, he's not the person stabbing Marion Crane in the shower.
Right. That's another cheat.
Yeah.
Like
cheaters, pumpkin eaters.
Because like the figure's like shorter than...
Way shorter than Anthony
Perkins,
Perkins because he's a tall god.
Well.
Yeah. So that's the first time I saw it, and I literally was like fucking shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
So you remember watching it?
Yes, I remember watching it. And then I watched it. And then I watched the Vince Vaughn version, which was a huge fucking mistake.
We should have pretended like that's the movie we were talking about this whole time.
And then like every year since then, I've been watching Psycho. Wow. It's so good.
It's a pretty great movie. Even though I had seen it before and remembered, and I knew about the shower scene and everything, and that she dies, and we'd watched videos about it beforehand. So I very much knew when we watched it this time.
When you watch it, you're like,
you get really wrapped up in her storyline, and then she dies, and the sequence is so quick too. Like, she's fine, and then she's taking the shower. She's having a great time. She's, like, giddy. She's, like, laughing at how great she's showering. Then all of a sudden, it's like, zh, 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 and she dies. And then it's just like, that's it. She's dead. And you're like, that was, like, a snap of a finger. She was the main character. Life. Yeah. It would go on to influence every movie ever, including the Coen brothers movies. Their movies are also they're not horror movies, but they're, like, also very randomness of life.
Right.
Like, just... somebody suddenly shot
for
or whatever.
Those people who don't know those movies, what movies are
Fargo
those?
Is one, which then spawned the TV show Fargo, which I am all about.
Oh, so that's why you brought it up.
No, but they also made The Big Lebowski and Burn After Reading, No Country for Old Men.
Literally have seen none of those movies.
Well,
I feel really stupid.
They're great. Some of them are great.
Yeah, it's great. Killing off your main character.
Mm-hmm.
Scream takes that.
We talked about Scream, so we can't talk about it now.
Just so great. So then Norman Bates becomes our new protagonist in this film.
Yeah.
And
it really does, like, switch the main character as soon as the murder happens.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it has to, because your main character died.
Right.
But, like, to have it be him.
But to back up a little bit, like, the scene right before the shower scene, they're in his office with all these taxidermy birds, which are fucking scary.
Birds, which would go on to influence his next movie, Birds.
We do notice these things throughout Hitchcock films. But like that scene is so good. You get the backstory of his mother. Marion kind of, you said, I've done some bad things and I'm going to go try and, I'm going to try and make them right. Make them right. Which so she makes this decision to go back and start her life again, like pick it up and take what she did wrong and go with it.
She stole some money before and now she's like
$40,000.
Which we looked up, and I think, what did we say? It was like
$300,000
today. That's a chunk of change right there.
Yeah. So we were like, yeah.
Yeah, take that back. You're going to get in trouble.
And then, we again, like, hear his mother's a fucking tyrant, but, he would never leave his mother because it's not her fault that she gets so crazy. It's her old age, and
right.
Her former lover died, and whatever. And it's like, and Marion's just casually like, well, don't you think you should like put her somewhere? And I honestly think she means like a nursing home.
Yeah.
Cause why not?
Right. she obviously needs help, and
yeah, like 24/7 help.
yeah.
And he's just like, to a mental institution? Like, we should lock her up? And that scene's just so good. Anthony Perkins does a great job.
He does.
And then, like, because you're constantly kind of, like, on edge, like, oh, am I going to like this guy? Am I not going to like this guy? This guy's really weird, but he's fucking attractive. So, which he's not in the books.
Yeah, in the books, he's described as a balding man. He's older, he's larger, and he's, like, unhealthy and kind of gross looking.
So thank God they cast Anthony Perkins,
and they cast...
otherwise I honestly wouldn't care about this
And
movie.
I have a theory about this. Like, you and I think that he's, like, a good-looking person by modern standards. We, like, can objectively look at him and be like, we would say that he is, like, cute nowadays or whatever. But at the time, when you think about, like, even, like, look at the birds. Look at the main character, the main male character of the birds.
You are absolutely right.
Mitch is, like, this big, he's got this jaw for days.
Well, even... Loomis.
Sam Loomis, who we'll talk about Sam Loomis in a second. But, like, the heroes are super masculine, are super big and, like, strong, and they're like, I'm going to punch the bad guy. And he is, like, seen as, like, kind of the antithesis to masculinity. He is scrawny, he's small. I don't think the reaction to him is the same as what modern audiences
You're absolutely right.
to.
I didn't even think about that. What I'm drawing lines between, you said that, like, the, our leading guys in this era are these big masculine guys, Cary Grant and whatever. Another fan that Hitchcock was a fan of is Jimmy Stewart. Put him in 4 of his films.
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart is also not your typical...
That's true.
Like, build.
He is kind of got a scrawn to him, yeah.
Yes, he's very tall, very scrawny.
Tall, very scrawny, yeah.
So I think Hitchcock is, like, drawn to those type of people.
Yeah.
Because he probably, I don't know. Why do you think he, like, casts those type of people?
Well, I think Anthony Perkins was cast very deliberately to cast against masculinity. I think Jimmy Stewart is just a great actor. And Anthony Perkins is too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of symbolism and purpose in casting Anthony Perkins.
Yeah. And
maybe there's some of that at Jimmy Stewart that's like, oh, he represents something else, but I don't know what it is.
His characters in all these movies, I'm always like, oh, it's so, like, gut twinging.
There's some weird, like, chauvinistic quality to a lot of Jimmy Stewart's queer characters. That was the time. Yeah.
And sometimes you're just a product of your time.
That's true.
Which I'm sure we'll look back nowadays and be like, what the fuck were you talking about? Why would you ever think that?
I'm sure we said things on this podcast that were
like,
I can't believe. I'm sorry, guys. We didn't know. We just didn't know.
So sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't know. Speaking of Sam Loomis, he's the boyfriend of our main character, Marion Crane, who will later go on to just inspire fucking everyone in horror.
Yeah, so some of the characters that were named after Sam Loomis are Sam Loomis from the Halloween franchise.
Dr. Loomis.
Dr. Loomis. His name is Sam, right? I believe that it is. I'm pretty sure it's Sam Loomis. Which I always knew that his name was Loomis, and I also knew that in Scream, the boyfriend of the main character in that is... Sydney is Billy Loomis. And I always thought those two were I always thought Scream was named after Halloween, but they were both
named after Sam Loomis from
Loomis.
Psycho.
And Billy Loomis in Scream says, "We all go a little mad sometimes." Anthony Perkins, Psycho. He references that movie. And
well, that's when they were building this story. If they named that after, they must be fans of this movie.
I'm sure, but that's why I think they were he was named after Psycho and not Halloween, which is what I initially thought. It doesn't really matter, but it is a fun connection that these.
And you just can't call everybody Norman Bates because that's like too much of
too on the nose. Yeah. Did you have to clown squeak like that?
I did.
And weird, you didn't do that with your voice. That was just pressing in your nose.
Shut up.
All right. Well. What else do we want to talk about, Psycho? We could go on literally all day about this movie.
I want to keep talking about this office scene that's so good. There's also this painting.
Yeah.
That Norman Bates later takes off the wall and is a peeping Tom into the, first room that Marion Crane is.
Cabin number 1.
Yeah, cabin number 1. It is a 17th century painting of Susanna and the Elders. Mm-hmm. Which is a huge story about adultery and that type of thing. And all, this painting has gone through all of the different renaissance of art.
Really?
And every artist has their own interpretation of it. Some of them have the elders, peeping Toms like from a bush and whatever. But this specific painting, I don't know the artist from it, is a full frontal nudity, which is later paintings, and then has actual groping of this woman. And I'm like, such fucking symbolism in this one goddamn painting about this whole movie. And Alfred Hitchcock, he hints to it at his trailer for Psycho, which
we
is
should talk about this trailer.
Great. It's amazing.
This trailer's so
I wish
funny.
more trailers were like this. This is probably... I do. I know I have this. If you listen to our other podcasts, we have this huge thing about trailers.
Yeah.
And how much it sucks that they're so much better than the movies nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Because trailers are great.
I think Psycho trailer is just as on par as Psycho. You're just floored from the beginning. Go ahead.
I don't really know about all that. I think it's really funny.
I think it's a slow burn.
I think it's a ridiculous Oh, you're right. It kind of is. It's this ridiculous trailer because it's just Alfred Hitchcock. If you don't know it, you have to watch it. Look up Psycho trailer.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
It's Alfred Hitchcock just talking to the camera and being like, this house that you're about to see is one of great importance. And he takes you room by room and threatens to tell you stuff. But
and then just
gets
stops.
halfway through his sentence and then stops to move on somewhere else. He's like, this painting is of particular importance because let's go to the next room, shall we? And he just
love
leaves.
it.
It's so weird.
I love it.
And it does end in a jump scare, so I guess it all works out.
So we have this huge office scene, and then another, then we immediately go into, we're going to start the shower scene. Marion's writing down some math, and, she tears it up, throws it in the toilet. First fucking movie to have a flushing toilet.
This is the true influence of the movie. We can debate killing off the main character and being scary. I think we wouldn't be where we are today without a good solid toilet flush. I love
it that Alfred Hitchcock is like, we've never had this. Now we do.
I don't think that was his motivation for this.
Think, he at this point he's like a big fuck you to the industry, and he's like, and you know what? I'm also gonna put a flushing toilet in it. And he might have been like, I'm gonna get away with this because I also have all this other horrible stuff that's happening, so you won't even notice it. Maybe.
I think it was just a situation where there was a lot of stuff that hadn't happened yet, and this was just one of them. Eventually, it was gonna come up. It just happens to be in a movie.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people. They hated, they wanted this, clean, sterile life, as I said before.
Don't want to think about toilets.
Right, exactly.
I don't want to either, honestly. I live my day-to-day life.
Let me tell you, another bathroom scene that makes me so uncomfortable.
It's effective, and this is why.
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel vulnerable in bathrooms. What can I say?
Right. I also want to talk about the music since we're going to get into the shower scene. The iconic
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to our next subject.
Do you know the
composer?
Yeah.
It's like Bernie Herrmann or something like that?
Something like that.
I'm going to look it up while you talk.
Okay. They, they didn't want this big da-da, this big shock.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so what's more jarring than just high note, deaf, high note, deaf, high, and just it just instantly makes you jittery, and it keeps you there throughout this entire 10-second scene or whatever.
It really is the sound of panic. It is just fright and terror.
It's what it's like your heartbeat too, because it's boom, boom, boom,
for sure.
And that's inspired other amazing things.
Yeah.
That you slow it down, bring the beat down a little bit lower, you get Jaws. Dun dun.
Kind of. Yeah,
it's just like that. Bump bump bump, just jarring and sharp.
Mm-hmm. The internet is refusing to load at all, so I don't have the information.
Fuck that.
Yeah, but we'll get it.
So continuing on with this scene, you have the sharp sounds of the music playing, and then the stabbing starts.
Yeah,
and you get all of the good stabs,
mm-hmm.
which never penetrate her body ever.
You never see a stab go in, even though you think you do.
Right. Yeah. That's also really cool, because your eyes are literally seeing things that aren't there.
Yeah.
And that's crazy and really interesting and exciting. Mm-hmm. But the sounds made. Oh, so it was Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah, Bernard Herrmann is the name. Yeah.
The sounds made for this stabbing that isn't happening.
Yeah. It's happening off screen barely.
that they had, and this talks about this in this documentary, and it goes into fuller detail about it, but they achieved that sound by stabbing a melon, which is really cool. It was the cassava melon. Because it had like most melons have like a lot of flesh and not so much like a squishy inside. And so it's the perfect sound.
Great.
Sounds like flesh. Also stabbing like a huge steak and twisting it.
Yeah.
Those are really good sounds too.
It
So
really
those
makes
are
a
the
really
two
gross-
things that I love sound design.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
I've done a lot of research on Jurassic Park, and like the sound design behind all of those creatures is so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, to have like in one scene, when the T-Rex comes out into the daylight and attacks the Gallimimus, it's literally like someone's dog playing with a rope, like a rope toy, and like growling and stuff.
Wow.
Like all this stuff's just so interesting to me. Do you like sound design?
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm very, I constantly just like will pause whatever headphones I'm listening to, because I usually am listening to some kind of headphones, and just listen to sounds as like I open a door or push something aside or whatever, because I just like the texture of sounds. I always have.
That's kind of weird.
Well, listen, all right. You asked.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we should move on from Psycho, because we literally could talk about it for the rest of our lives.
We could. But before we do.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to ask me if I've seen any of the sequels? The answer is yes, every one of them.
That's a lie. Don't watch them.
Although...
Do not give them your money.
No, don't do that. Psycho 2 came out in 1983.
Yeah?
Like 23 years after the original movie.
There's like 5 of them.
Oh,
isn't there?
yeah. But they all came out in the 80s, which is just interesting.
Fucking stupid.
No. And Anthony Perkins plays Norman Bates in all of them. That's... Yeah.
Seriously?
Yep, he reprises
He's
it
in
all.
them?
Yeah. He's
now
in every...
I kind of want to watch them.
He's in every one of them until, like, the remake.
Whoa.
Yeah.
My mind is, like, blown right now. I'm not going to watch them.
Right, because they're probably very bad.
They're very bad. God, how old would Anthony Perkins be at that point?
He was pretty old. Yeah.
Be at least 50, maybe 60?
Something like that.
Too old. Sorry for our older listeners out there. The psychosis of Psycho.
All right. What do you mean?
Like, this boy shares half of his body and brain with his mother. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
It is. I don't think this is how mental illness works.
Why? Why do you think that?
Because I think that we have a very, or at least I do anyway, have a very modern view of mental illness, and that it isn't something to be like afraid of, or that people who are mentally ill would behave this way.
Well, I mean, so much nowadays with all these fucking stupid
what
gun things. We love to blame a lot of that on mental illness.
Right.
Because people are white, which is stupid and we won't get into on this podcast.
Yeah.
I think the human mind is something we still do not fully understand.
Maybe.
I think what Norman Bates goes through is a true sign of trauma.
Yeah.
And like the therapist says in the movie, it just and that part that plays his mother has taken over. So I don't think so much that this person has schizophrenia.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's just a survival technique. It's like trauma based and everything like that. I think it's incredibly interesting.
Yeah. He definitely needs psychiatric attention immediately, and from an early age he needed it.
Should have, yeah. But when you have a mother like Mrs. Bates,
that's for sure.
Which you've said you've never seen Bates Motel, the TV show.
I think I started to watch it, but I don't remember anything about it. It was a long time ago, and I want to watch it.
I watched one episode, and I was like, no, thank you.
It was too much for you.
Yeah, it was too much for me. It's incredibly interesting. Tweet at me about like your favorite episodes, so maybe I'll go and watch the one, those few episodes, but I will probably not watch the whole thing. One, it doesn't have Anthony Perkins in it. It has The Good Doctor, which
The Good Doctor, my boy, The Good Doctor.
I'm not
Charlie Bucket.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of.
Okay.
But yeah.
I have a poster of him, so it's fine.
Shut up!
All right,
why do you lie to our audience?
Please,
like this?
Can we move on from Psycho? We only have a couple more minutes left in the episode.
Excuse me, this is my podcast.
That's true, it is. But
and I can talk about whatever I want to talk about.
You do want to talk about other stuff, though, don't you?
I do.
All right.
So we had Psycho.
We did.
1960. And, you know, we went on from that. 3 years later, we had The Birds. But before that, we had Rear Window, starring our favorite, Jimmy Stewart.
Well, I wouldn't say favorite, but he's
a huge favorite of ours, at least of mine.
He's pretty good.
You've said that you've liked him.
I like him, yeah.
Yeah. I don't like him in Technicolor. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him in black and white.
It is weird to see him in color. Because basically the only way that I know him is It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Great movie. Such a good movie.
Yeah. I have found, like, these last couple of months, I'm, like, finding myself, like, saying, it is a wonderful life. Like, about my own stuff.
Well,
it's very
good.
weird. Yeah. It's so easy nowadays to, like, get down, especially we have social media. You're constantly comparing yourself to other people. And, you know, sometimes you just have to look at the good that you have and realize, like I might not have ever moved away, you know, to a faraway destination and left this big lavish life and had this, you know, I might not be a doctor and I might not be a lawyer and I might not be all these other things, but like what I have is amazing and it is a wonderful life. So
that's for sure.
Just to get a little real here on what makes it scary.
That's what Alfred Hitchcock movies are all about, isn't it?
I mean, no.
What? So Rear Window. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Rear Window came out in 1954.
Yeah.
Starring Jimmy Stewart, also Grace Kelly.
Yeah.
You know, royalty of the silver screen.
Right. She's incredibly famous.
This is one of those other groundbreaking movies that have had different adaptations over the years.
Most notably,
Disturbia,
with
Shia LaBeouf.
Yay.
Did you ever think that his name was like Shia La and then his last name was Buff? Because honestly, that's what I thought for a long time.
Wow. Well, I can say I've thought a lot of things about his name in the past, and that has never been one of them.
Well, you never say Shia.
I guess you don't.
And you never say like Mr. LaBeouf. You always say Shia LaBeouf.
Okay.
So like there's no break in it.
I guess you're right. I'm
I'm
amazed.
gonna call out somebody that I went to high school with, and I'm sure they'll never hear this podcast, and nobody that knows her will ever hear this podcast. But like her name was Alexia, and I honestly thought that was like her first name forever. Like I was like, oh, that's like cool.
That is a cool
like
first name.
Alexander, like Alexandria, but it's like Alexia. But it's not. Her last name is Zaya.
Her first name was Alec?
Alex.
Oh,
Zaya.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. I'm going to
Isn't
change
that
my name to
crazy?
Alexia.
You know what? I wouldn't hate it.
All right,
because
cool.
we'd still call you Alex,
Yeah.
so I'm not really mad about it.
Or Mr. Red. Hello. This is a cool movie. This is a movie about Jimmy Stewart breaks his leg and is bored at home, so he starts looking at his neighbors and everything.
How do you think he got up into that apartment?
I would assume he was carried.
Who carried him?
I don't know. Grace Kelly and the maid.
Do you think Grace Kelly?
I don't know, Jody. I don't have any answers for you. It doesn't matter.
But that's honestly what I thought of the whole movie.
How did he get the cast around his leg?
Yeah.
Oh,
you mean like to film it?
No. I mean the character.
The hospital put it on.
Okay, the hospital carried him up to the apartment.
The literal hospital?
Jody,
the building?
Please. You're embarrassing yourself.
Anyway,
Yeah.
those are just some of the things I think of when I watch movies.
Yeah, so this is not so much a horror movie as much as it is just like a kind of suspense thriller type thing.
Right, so he's bored in his apartment. He's talking to his massage therapist, nanny.
She's like a housekeeper
type of person. And is like, I'm dating this wonderful woman, Grace Kelly's character. Yeah. Liza, I think is her name, or Lisa.
Oh, it's Lisa, but we're never clear if it's actually Lisa and he's just pronouncing it.
Or Liza.
Or if it is definitely, he says Lisa.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Anyway, I'm not going to marry her, even though I'm 45 fucking years old.
There's literally a line where the housekeeper is like, you're he says like, you're a young man, young, healthy man, and she's a young, healthy woman. And I'm like,
how fucking old are you? Yeah.
There's probably a 20-year age difference between these actors.
For sure.
And I'm not talking about the housekeeper. I'm talking about Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly.
Yeah. And he's like, I can't marry her because she's too perfect and she's too plain.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck you, Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, he's really abhors marriage.
Yeah. I think that's so dumb.
It is.
He's a photographer.
He is.
And so he's used to traveling the world and just, sleeping in bed bugs and all these other horrible
Sleeping
things.
in bed bugs, huh?
Yeah, in bed bugs.
Okay.
Bed bugs ridden mattresses. And so he's like, I'm used to all these things, and she's just this perfect person who doesn't do anything wrong.
She's a socialite, so she's like,
right, so she never
attends galas.
Never wears the same dress twice.
That's
like,
right, yeah. She's rich.
Right, so he's like, I definitely got to break it up with her. But he's been watching his neighbors because he literally has nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's noticing that his neighbor across the way...
Yeah. Killed his wife.
Well, he didn't see her.
You're signaling to me, and I don't know what you want me to say.
I want you to start talking because I'm tired.
Okay, well, he suspects that his neighbor has murdered his wife because she kind of disappears. She's sickly, she's bedridden, and he is like, providing support for her, but then clearly gets tired of that, or maybe he's poisoning her to make her sick. I don't know, but he ends up, maybe, yeah. He ends up killing her, and spoilers, we do find out that he did do it. I kind of assumed that it was fake because I've grown up on cartoons where that was the twist was, everything can be explained away by accidents or whatever. Like, I feel like every cartoon from the 90s had an episode like that where they're like, there's a killer, but it's fake. So the whole thing is him trying to find information to prove it. Grace Kelly at one point goes over there to see, because he buried some stuff in the lawn out front, and they're like, we have to find out what it is, but there's nothing there because he moved it already. And he kills a dog at one point. Not Jimmy Stewart.
Fuck that.
That sucks. Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
For real.
They probably killed an actual dog.
I don't think they did.
1950s.
This one, I don't think. No. But yeah. So eventually, the neighbor finds out that it's Jimmy Stewart that's spying on him. It's kind of like sending him notes and like calling him and leaving him, or calling him and everything. And
yeah, that's really intense.
Yeah, he comes over to his apartment while he's alone because everybody else is away, and slowly he's able to fend off this guy by it's pitch black in the room and he's a photographer, so he loads these flash bulbs in his camera and blinds the guy, so he's stumbling around in the dark, and eventually the police are able to get to him before the guy kills him, and it ends with him trying to avoid the guy and falls out of the window and breaks his other leg, and the guy I guess gets arrested.
Yeah, he confesses to everything. He had chopped her body up and had placed her all along the river.
Yeah.
That's near their apartment complex and whatever. Just crazy movie. Really good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was long too. All of his movies are really long.
I didn't mind this one as much.
Yeah, this one didn't
except
feel
there was
very
just
long.
a fucking lot of Grace Kelly and Jimmy Stewart kissing.
Yeah.
A lot.
It was uncomfortable.
Which I don't know if old movies needed that because there was nothing else going on.
I guess not. They didn't have porn at this time, so
yeah, that's my thing. It's some form of erotica because those scenes are very long.
They are,
and now they're very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I liked it.
It was fun.
We said, it went on. It's gone through so many remakes, and Disturbia has that same quality of the neighbor. Your own neighbors are the people who are killing people, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I just want to touch on one more movie that we watched.
Yeah, the last movie. I thought this was maybe my favorite of the non-psycho ones.
Yeah. Yeah. This in Rear Window I really liked. It's Rope.
Rope. Oh, Rope is so cool.
1948. So this is, of the movies that we talked about today, this is the oldest one. Yeah.
This is a movie where these two friends from college, again, they're rich. A lot of Alfred Hitchcock characters are just wealthy people.
Because he's hello, these fucking rich people are
they're
stupid.
crazy. Or I think it's because he's also rich and he just knows that's how people in his world talk and act.
Really?
Well, I mean, he was a rich person.
Yeah,
he made successful movies. So,
oh my God, no.
I don't think he was saying these are how these people act. I think he was just what if somebody did this and somebody happens to be.
This story blows my mind.
So what happened is these two friends from college, I think, do they live
school.
together? Private school?
I don't know if they live together.
I would have gotten the impression, if it wasn't from the 1948,
that they were gay.
These were a gay couple because they talk so close to each other and everything.
A different time.
Yeah, for sure. But so these two have decided to murder together, and so they kill another friend of theirs that they feel is inferior, and they hide his body in this chest, and They kill him by strangling him with some rope, and that's where the name of the movie comes from. Then they host a dinner party there, and they're like, we can't get rid of this body until...
They want to host this.
Yeah, they kind of get off on the thrill of it, or at least one guy does.
That's what's so fucking sick about this movie, is they're like, we did it. We killed this person. How did you feel when we did this? And now we're going to have this lavish party, and nobody's going to know, but we're going to invite Rupert over, because he might find out. And wouldn't it just be so exciting if we could pull it over on him? It's just so fucking weird.
They, like, get off on just being on the edge of...
It's awful. One guy like fucking can't handle it. He's like, I wish we never did this. I can't. How dare you do this? And at one point, like, the guy that they killed's dad comes over and takes home a bunch of these books, and the guy ties up the books with the rope that he used to kill his own son.
He's just so, it's like so Walter White from Breaking Bad. It's like his hubris is what. And I do not want to spoil this movie, how it ends, because I strongly recommend. The whole movie's on YouTube. We watched it on YouTube. It does have like Swahili subtitles or something, which is
not distracting at all. And I'm a person who's very distracted by subtitles.
When you're not reading them because you can't, then that makes it okay. But such a great movie. And okay, so we didn't say probably what's arguably the biggest thing about this movie is that the entire thing is done, quote unquote, in one take. It's like Birdman. They literally, the whole movie is just the camera moving around and showing you things and then moving to somebody else and they're talking and people walk in front of the camera and talk to each other in front of the camera, all in one take. Obviously, there are definitely
the only reason that it's not entirely one take is because the cameras back then only held 10 minutes
10
worth
minutes, so they had to cut every, like, about 10 minutes or whenever they could fit it in.
So the camera glides behind a table, glides behind somebody's back, and, like, then glides back out. So, but it does feel like one continuous take.
And there are definitely some cuts that you can, pretty much all the cuts you can, like, tell, like, oh, that's where but it's... What were you going to do at that time with the technology? Yeah. There is one, like, edit, though, in the middle of the movie where it's, like, it's them talking, and then it just cuts to Jimmy Stewart's face, and he's, like,
we did notice it. We're like, hey, that's an actual cut.
But I think it was really earned, because that's when he starts to, like, suspect that these two are up to something, and he's, like, you could see he's, like, putting pieces together. It was I think it was a good moment for it.
Right, Jimmy Stewart is also in this movie. He plays Rupert.
He plays Rupert, who's not a detective, but he could be. Like, acts like a detective.
He's just one of the, socialites of just...
What is private school? Is that, like, a military thing?
No, it's, like, boarding school. You ever hear of that?
Yeah, boarding school. Hey, Arnold.
That's a boarding house.
Okay, well, Hogwarts then.
Yeah, only you have to pay to go there.
Well, I think you have to. Never mind. All right, let's not get in.
You literally have to pay dues to go there. It's like college, but more.
Cool.
And you have to like have ins. Your family has to have gone there. Like, there's so much stuff.
And you sometimes do murders.
Yeah, for the fuck of it.
Yeah, for fun.
For funsies.
It's a really great movie, though. I strongly recommend you check it out.
all of these movies.
Yeah, they're all good, but, like, some of them are slower and some of them are, like, like The Birds, I would say, is relatively straightforward, especially by modern standards. We have tons of movies that are like The Birds, and yes, this one was influential, but if you've seen other movies, then you will have seen The Birds.
Of these 4 movies, I would recommend Birds the least.
Yeah, me too.
I really liked Rope and Rear Window, and I mean, nothing beats Psycho.
Oh yeah, you've probably seen Psycho, or at least you know basically everything there is to know about it.
Yeah.
So those are the movies we wanted to talk about.
That's Alfred Hitchcock's.
Do you have any questions for me? Specifically, one question.
I do.
Me? Yeah. Why don't
you? Like, what makes? Do I want to say Psycho or do I want to say Alfred Hitchcock?
Just say what makes. You could just
what
say
makes it scary.
The movie
clown.
It?
Yeah.
So, the Hitchcock has a very specific style. In fact, most of his movies are not horror movies. Psycho and The Birds are basically the only 2 horror movies that he made. And those movies are pretty self-explanatory in terms of what makes them scary. The Birds, obviously, there's an epidemic, there's a monster. It's not typically like a horror monster, but it is.
Well, it's like I said
animals.
Before, it's an epidemic.
And it's an epidemic, something you can't control. And it's like the feeling of isolation. You have to lock yourself in this home, and like everything out there is going to kill you. The world out there is trying to kill you. You have to stay inside.
Survival of the fittest.
That's definitely something that you could see in a 60s where, like, the hippie movement is starting to take off and the world's going crazy.
War.
That's going on, the Cold War and everything. you can definitely see why people would respond to that. As far as Psycho goes, I mean, we could literally talk all day about like the implications of a lot of like this stuff is happening right over there. Like, you know, you could just go out and like just somebody who you had a conversation with could kill you. Like
right in your own goddamn shower,
right?
Where nothing is safe.
Yeah. Nowhere is
Which
safe.
we've started out when we started this, you know, podcast. We've started like, oh, it's everyone else that's scary, and now it's like the people in your house are scary, and now it's in your goddamn bathroom.
I will argue though that it's not like her home. It's not her bathroom. She has to go.
Still,
yes, but she has to go.
Place.
She has to go out, and that's when these things happen to her when she's in this isolated place.
I don't think
we
that...
will talk next week about the home being the scary thing. We'll talk about when it comes home next week. So let's move on for now.
I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Okay.
This is a bathroom.
Yeah, it is.
A place where you are supposed to be safe.
That's right. Yeah. A bathroom is a scary place for terrible things to happen to you.
Right.
No one's denying that.
Like, that is where you're supposed to be, like, at one of the most peaceful places. That and your bed.
But
like,
do you feel truly safe in a hotel bathroom?
I certainly never poop in them because I can't. Yeah.
Wow, that's crass, Jen. But okay, so it's pretty obvious what makes Psycho scary. I am kind of interested in talking about the idea of what makes anything scary. In fact, what is horror?
Oh God.
I know this. We're not going to talk too long about this because the episode's getting long. But I wanted to talk a little bit about
like
the
basis
nature. Well, hold on there because I'm not entirely sure what I mean. The thing is...
That's not a surprise. Anyway.
Wow. Things being scary is a very specific type of emotion that you have in watching a movie.
Right.
Because it's not as simple as are the characters in the movie in fear. Because there are tons of movies where the characters are scared, but you, the audience, aren't. Think of any... big budget action
movies like, where they're falling off a train or whatever.
Sure. Or like when in the movie The Avengers, when the aliens are like destroying the city. Think about that from the New Yorkers' point of view. That's a nightmare. Like it's an apocalypse going on. It's horrifying. And people are dying left and right. Things are exploding. But we don't say The Avengers is a horror movie.
Right.
So what makes something a horror movie? Why is it scary?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I guess I am.
What I think truly makes horror is part chemical in your brain.
Okay.
When you're fearful, we all have that like fight or flight response. You either, fight and try to survive, or you flight by leaving or dying.
Okay. Sure.
So it's fear and horror. I'm going to lump them into the same thing, is that it's that release of adrenaline and what you're going to do with that situation. I also think horror is at the point of death, one, not in your own hands, out of your control, and in a means beyond what you are capable of happening, of thinking that will happen to you.
Okay.
It's an unexpected, not planned way of dying in a horrific way. Horrific. That's what I think horror is.
Well,
because that's what bothers me most about horror is is thinking about being so scared when I die.
Yeah.
That's what is horrifying.
And again,
or even what will happen to my body after I die.
Right.
I don't like that either. But
again, I would argue that a lot of sci-fi action movies have that too. Like if a building falls on you.
But I think horror specifically targets that.
Yeah.
It targets just you.
Right.
And just your death. Like how you, or how someone values your life so less.
So that's when you start to ask what, could you classify things as horror if, say, for example, two college friends decide they're going to kill their friend and then and try to hide the body?
Yes, because what if someone did that to me?
What if? I don't think that's a horror movie, though.
In the moment, yes.
Yes.
If this entire movie led up to them killing him,
right,
that would be a horror movie.
But it didn't.
Well, that's just a different part of the story.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think Rope is a horror movie, but the events in it are
horrific.
Are horrific. And so it's an interesting question. I don't think I have an answer.
Well, I'm sure there is no one
I'm sure there is no answer. But like Rear Window, it's about, a guy killing his wife, and then, you think he's out there, he could kill again, and he's coming after Jimmy Stewart. Again, it's not a horror movie, but it's got scary stuff in it. Mm-hmm. And if it were, you could have arguments about what makes it scary. The idea that, like, somebody right next door could be a killer. The idea that, something bad could happen in your neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
I looked up the definition of horror because why fucking not?
Sure.
Horror. Noun. First definition. An intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust.
Okay.
Which is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
And then 2, a bad or mischievous person, especially a child.
Wait, fear? A fear is a horror. Oh, you're being a horror. Okay, yeah. For some reason, I thought you looked at the word.
I just love that, especially a child.
You're such a horror. You're such a disease.
That little horror Zachary was around is what it says.
That's funny. So
I was right in this first segment, the intense feeling of fear, shock, and disgust.
Yeah, like if an alien attacks and destroys your city.
And kills you.
Yeah, sure.
Or kills someone you love, yes.
Or everyone you love and the entire planet,
right,
like Alderaan getting destroyed.
So yeah, everything is horror.
Yeah, everything's horror, nothing matters.
Whether it's good, bad, or ugly.
Labels, man, they just don't matter,
They really don't.
Yeah. So
everything's also a love story.
Yeah, I guess. Tippi Hedren loved those birds. Got her killed.
Those were actual real birds that were thrown at her fucking face in that closet.
Poor girl. Alfred Hitchcock.
She had to go and like get psychiatric care because of that. I fucking would too. And I also would if I was in Indiana Jones and had to be around all those goddamn snakes or rats or bugs or whatever. I would have a problem.
Hitchcock, just like Kubrick, who we talked about, horrendously bad to the actors and actresses, especially like doing a billion takes of things. Just like this episode has gone on for 1 billion minutes. Actually, not that many.
I was gonna say, really?
That's what makes it scary, I guess. Or what makes anything scary.
Yeah, who cares? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters anymore.
Everyone's a suspect.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Next time.
Oh, okay. I was worried you were going to end it that way. Yeah, next time I'm really excited. Oh, boy.
Next week, our episode will be coming out a day early. Why?
Because it's coming out on
Halloween.
And we're doing Halloween. It's on the Legend itself. Arguably the second most influential movie of all time. Horror movie, anyway.
Right.
Man, I can't wait to do that episode.
You are very excited.
Oh, man.
I will get excited.
Okay.
I'm not going to be as excited as I was for this episode. I love Alfred Hitchcock.
I was excited to do this one too. Don't get me wrong.
But thank God for the reboot in 2018 because that recharged my energy
of Halloween. Not of Psycho.
Not Psycho. Don't give any of your money to.
How do you feel about Vince Vaughn?
You know what? I like Vince Vaughn.
Okay. He was in Jurassic Park 2.
He was in The Lost World. He was also in Dodgeball, which is like
That's true.
love Dodgeball.
He was in Fred Claus.
I think
your favorite Christmas movie.
I've never seen Fred Claus.
Okay.
I think he is a very talented actor.
Sure.
In the right parts.
Yeah.
He is I do mean Anthony Perkins.
That's for sure.
And you know what would be really cool? And you've said this before. I really think they should remake Psycho with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
Andrew Garfield and Anthony Perkins
the
same person. You'll never convince me they're not.
Yeah.
There's a time machine somewhere involved, but it works.
Yeah. Anyway, next week we're talking about Halloween.
I can't wait. Oh my God, I can't wait.
So tune in Thursdays when our episode's going to come out.
Not Friday, like typical.
In case you didn't notice this week, I'm sick.
I didn't notice. You sound fine.
No, I'm sure. Because I can hear my own voice in my own head and I sound like shit. So thanks for hanging in there with us. Thanks for going through all my horrible Alfred Hitchcock impersonation. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at CleverGirl, the letter F and the letter X.
I'm at Mr. spelled out the long way, Red2342. That's at Mr. Red2342.
I hope you got that. Hopefully it's in the description and
back
link
it up.
Below. Yeah, you can back it up. Back that thing up.
Back it up.
If you want to follow our non-seasonal podcast, Peeves and Cues, you can follow it at Peeves and Cues on Twitter. if you'd like to send us your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie or what you like most about Halloween, I hope we read it before this next episode that we record it. You can email us at peevesandcuespodcast@gmail.com.
Do it. I command you.
Yeah.
And if you want this show to grow and be bigger and continue, rate and review on iTunes. That is literally how podcasts become anything at all. Ever.
That's right. We take our personal time out of our busy schedules, and I do mean fucking busy.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Red has a full-time job. I have a full-time job. Mr. Red goes to school at night. I, run a community theater, basically, and do a lot of other things. So we take time out of our busy schedules. We love doing this. I absolutely love it. Yeah. This is our first time doing specific things like horror movies.
Which we both love.
Right. So I hope you enjoy it. I love putting it out there for you. So just, spread it with at least 3 people.
You don't even have... Sure. And you don't even have to pay anything. Although, patreon.com/MrEdPlays if you want to help out.
Seriously, because all the money he gets goes right to me. So just pay.
That's not true. Anyway, all right. So, well, thank you for listening. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to throw on the end there?
I wouldn't hurt a fly.
Is that how you want to end it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to leave that in? No.